Welcome to my channel ChemFirst students. Today's topic is gas chromatography. This video is only for students, those who are preparing for academic examinations, and also for students those who are looking for interviews to get job in analytical field. Gas chromatography is one of the most popular analytical technique in pharmaceutical industry. If you have basic knowledge and handling experience on gas chromatographic technique, then you will get definitely job as gas chromatography analyst. But here experience matters. If you have minimum of 1 to 2 years experience, then you will definitely get job. But there is an exception. If you have handling experience during the time of project and subject knowledge with a good level of communication, then you will have better chances to get the job in pharmaceutical industry. My personal recommendation is that do project on gas chromatography, get all the practical knowledge, get full of confidence. So before attending the interviews, then you'll have better chances to get job. This video is explaining the practical problems that you can face during the time of experiment along with a theoretical knowledge, so which is present behind the concept of gas chromatography. Please watch this video till the end and ask your doubts, questions or any comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe my channel. Okay, let's jump into the main topic. Gas chromatography is the technique which is used to separate gases, substances or volatile substances which are present in the sample solution. Coming to the principle, here we have two principles, partition and adsorption. But the main principle is partition, so that we can see here in GLC. GLC means gas liquid chromatography. So what is partition? The partition is the property of the sample component, so which is present in between two immiscible phases. The sample components get separated between two immiscible phases like mobile phase and stationary phase. Here we can use carrier gas as mobile phase and stationary phase is liquid in nature. In between these two phases, the sample components get separated. So we can use these carrier gases, helium, nitrogen, hydrogen, and we can use PEG, polyethylene glycol, and amide, etc. These are the liquid stationary phase that we can use here. But here a supporting material is required to support the liquid phase. So here we can use diatomaceous earth so as supporting material. So partition is the main principle in GLC. So most of the components get separated by the principle of partition. But there is a principle also there, one more principle also there, that is called adsorption. Here the sample components get adsorbed over the surface of stationary phase. Here the stationary phase is solid in nature. We can use silica gel, alumina, etc. as adsorbent materials. We can see this adsorption principle in gas solid chromatography, and this adsorption principle will be useful for separation of small molecular weight components. For example, if you take carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, methane, so these type of gases which are having low molecular weight can be easily separated based on the principle of adsorption. So here this picture is explaining the partition principle. Here we are sending the mobile phase. We have two samples, red color and blue color. Red color sample is having more partitioning property, so that's why it is retaining in the column. But the blue color is having low partitioning coefficient, that's why it is separating as quickly as possible. So depending upon this partition coefficient of the sample component, we can easily separate the sample components in the column. Coming to the GC instrumentation. So these are the instrumental components. The first one is carrier gas, so which is connected to injection port. Then column. Column is present in column oven, which is providing temperatures. And finally, the column is connected to detector, and detector is finally connected to recorder. So these are the important components which we can see in gas chromatographic equipment. The first one is called carrier gas, which is also called as mobile phase. And carrier gas that we can take in cylinders. So what is the use of this carrier gas? Carrier gas will carry the sample components through the column. The sample components cannot carry itself. It requires a carrier gas. So here we can use different type of carrier gases: helium, nitrogen, hydrogen, etc. And these carrier gases which are present in the cylinders, we can have different colored cylinders. Depending upon color, we can identify the type of carrier gas that we have in the cylinder. For example, hydrogen is present in red color cylinders. So nitrogen is present in gray color cylinders, and helium is present in brown color cylinders. So identifying the cylinders depending upon its color, so it will be easy for identification of the components which are present in the cylinders. And here we are maintaining optimum pressure that around 10 to 50 psig units. And this carrier gas will be useful for providing a flow rate of 25 to 150 milliliter per minute in packed columns, and 1 to 25 milliliter per minute in open tubular columns. There we have two types of columns that we can discuss in the coming slides. But here important thing is choosing of carrier gas. So how do we choose this carrier gas? Carrier gas will be chosen depending upon the detector that we are using, depending upon the sample components that we are going to separate. Excuse me. Here we have the four important key properties of this carrier gas. The first one is called inert. So every carrier gas must be having inert nature, chemically inert. It should not react with the sample components, as well as it should not react with the mobile phase. The next one is high purity. So most of the times, so we are using high grade carrier gases, which is having around 99.99% of purity. If you're taking low grade solvent, sorry, low grade carrier gas, then there will be chance of getting impurities in the column, and the column will be damaged. So that's why we should take high purity, high grade carrier gases. And carrier gas must be cheap. So why? Because we are using most of the carrier gas most of the time. For example, if you see the equilibrium process, so before starting the experiment, the column has to be in the equilibration process. So we have to send the carrier gas through the column for about 12 to 24 hours. It requires more carrier gas. So if carrier gas is cheap, then it will be easy for us to finish the experiment and easily available. So we can get it from a local market. So these are the main important key characteristics of carrier gas. And here the carrier gas, when we are choosing, so we are having two types of problems. So safety is the first important criteria that we need to consider. Why? Because, for example, if you are taking hydrogen as carrier gas, hydrogen is having higher combustion property. So it is a very dangerous carrier gas. So when we are operating with hydrogen, So we need to take few precautions. We should check all the valves, all the fittings in the instrument, and the ventilation is need to be proper. Proper exhaust system must be required. So why? Because hydrogen is having exploding characteristics. So that's why we need to take care of all the important precautions. So while we are operating with hydrogen. And there is one more important problem that we can see in gas chromatographic experiments. Sometimes carrier gas that we are getting is low grade. So that means if it is not reaching to 99.99%, then there will be having more number of impurities present in carrier gas. So why? Because we can use this carrier gas in different purposes. We can use it in hospitals, we can use it in research labs, industrial purpose. So different purposes that we are using this carrier gas. So we need to check before starting the experiment the percentage purity of this carrier gas. So otherwise the column will be damaged with the impurities present in that carrier gas. And the next component that here is flow controller. So this is the flow controller which is present just after the carrier gas, which controls the flow, which controls the pressure of the carrier gas. It is very essential. Why? Because the carrier gas which is present at the cylinder will be high pressured. If there is no flow controller, the high pressure will be damaging the column. So we need to control the pressure of the carrier gas. So these flow controllers will be delivering the gas with a constant flow. So we can check this constant flow. So in this meter, and there will be another important component is there that is called flow meters. So these flow meters will measure the flow rate of carrier gas. So why? Because measuring carrier gas flow is important. So we are following the procedures. According to the procedure, we need to follow, say for example, 20 ml per minute. So how do we check? So we can check it by using a flow meters. So we can place these flow meters front in the starting point of column, as well as we can place it after the detector. So we have two types of flow meters, rotameter and soap bubble meter. So these flow meters that we need to use here in gas chromatography technique. But here sometimes the flow controllers that we are using is low quality. So if it is having low quality, then those flow controllers doesn't have a sufficient safety vent. So high quality flow controllers will be having sufficient safety vent. Then if high pressure is produced suddenly, then it will be sent away by these vents. So this is very much important that we have to check the flow control quality. We need to take a high grade, high quality flow controllers. Then we can get the constant stream of carrier gas. And the next one is called injection port, which inject the sample into the column. The injection port is present just above the column. It is present at the head of the column. Here the sample get injected, and we can have different type of modes of the sample injectors. So that means the sample will be injected by using three different modes: split mode, splitless mode, and on column injection mode. But mostly we are using split mode. So what is this split injection? So here this picture that we can see here is telling about the split mode. So before telling the split mode, I'm just explaining the construction part of this split injection. So this is the way that we can send the carrier gas, and this is the injection port, and this injection port is connected to the column, and here there will be a split valve is present. So if you are sending excess sample through this, then excess sample get separated, get get going out through this valve. So that's why there is a split valve is open here. For example, if you are sending 49 ml per minute, the flow rate of carrier gas we are sending, and here we are sending 100 ml of sample solution, then only so 1 ml will be injected through this column, and remaining all the mobile phase and all the sample will be going out from this split valve. Okay, this is about a split mode. So by this split mode, we can inject only 0.1 to 1% of the sample. So we cannot use the entire sample by using the split mode. And this is the mostly used mode, a routine method of separation, routine method of injection. And here most of the sample will be wasted. It will be discarded. And the second one is called splitless injection. So here in the splitless injection, we cannot see any split valve open. So it is completely blocked. It is completely closed. So entire sample that we are injecting is getting into the column. So all the sample will be entering into the column, and it will be used in specific conditions like for doing the quantitative analysis. Then we can use this splitless injection. Why? Because we required more amount of sample to quantify it. And also we can use some experiment like trace analysis, a low sample concentration, that we can use this type of splitless injection method. And the third one is called column injection. So this column injection is directly we are injecting the sample. So actually here in injection port there will be a heater will be there. That means the sample is converting into a gaseous phase before entering into the column. So that means so gaseous sample components will be only entering into the column. But whereas in case of on column injection, here the sample is not converting into the liquid. Sorry, sample is not converting into the gas. The liquid sample is injecting so directly into the column. So here we are not providing any temperature. So why? Because some samples which are having thermolabile property, that means if you are providing high temperatures, but those substances will be damaged, or those substances will be degraded. So so we should not provide higher temperatures. So that's why, so when we are proceeding with thermolabile substances, then we can use on column injection port. And here these injection ports might be having two important problems. So one is sometimes we are using the sample which is having non-volatile nature. Actually, gas chromatography will be useful for separating the sample components which are gases in nature. But if you are using non-volatile nature, then it will be very difficult. We cannot get any peaks and we cannot get any separation. So, so we are converting the non-volatile component into volatile component by the process of derivatization. Okay, so this is the problem that we can see usually. So sometimes we cannot get any peaks. So that means we have to check the volatility of the sample components which are present in the sample solution. If it is not volatile, then we have to convert into volatile by the process of derivatization. And the second problem that we can see here is sometimes so injection port get contaminated, so due to various reasons. So due to impurities present in the carrier gas or septum bleeding. So why? Because here we are using the septum. A rubber septum will be there, so through which the sample will be injected. Sometimes we can see the septum bleeding, and sometimes we can see that injection port is not properly installed, installation is failed. So due to various reasons, so here the injector is getting contaminated. And how do you know that injector is contaminated? So if the injector is contaminated, then we can see the peak splitting in the final chromatogram. The peaks will be splitted. So after after the injection is contaminated, how can we rectify this problem? So we can rectify this problem by rinsing the injector with a suitable solvent like methanol. We have to take the injection port outside, and we have to rinse with the methanol properly and dry it and keep it again in the proper place. That way we can easily remove the contaminants which are present in the injector. The next, coming to the column. So this is the main heart of the experiment. So which is present in between injection port and detector. Here in this column, the separation will be taking place. The partition is the main principle in GLC. So most of the compounds will be separated by the principle of partition. So this column will be useful for separation of sample components. We can have two types of columns: packed columns, capillary columns. But in which capillary columns are most popular, and most of the compounds will be separated by capillary column, which is having higher efficiency than packed columns. So packed columns are made up of glass or stainless steel material. So these are the packed columns that we can see here, and which is having length of 1 to 5 meters and internal diameter of 2 to 4 millimeters. Comparing with the columns which are used in HPLC, here in gas chromatography columns are higher length. So why? Because we are using the sample components which are gases in nature, which are having higher mobility. It requires more length to get separated. And here we are using the inert support medium. So we can use the inert support medium along with the liquid stationary phase. And the next one is capillary columns, which are made up of fused silica. So these are all capillary columns. So comparing with the packed columns, capillary columns are having higher length, that is 10 to 100 meters. Internal diameter will be very less, 0.1 to 0.5 millimeters. And we can have two types of columns here: WCOT columns and Scott columns. But in which WCOT columns are having higher efficiency. So what is WCOT columns? Wall coated open tubular columns. And these capillary columns are also called to be open tubular columns. Okay, so this is wall coated open tubular column. There will be a wall is there, and here the liquid stationary phase will be coated on the wall of the column directly without having any inert supporting material. But whereas in case of Scott column, there will be a supporting material is there in between a wall of the column and the liquid stationary phase. Okay, so these are the two types of columns, but in which wall coated open tubular column is more efficient than Scott columns. And these are the materials that we can use as liquid stationary phase: polyethylene glycols, esters, amides, etc. And here also we can get few problems, that sometimes the column get contaminated. This is the main problem that we can see in gas chromatography due to two reasons. So one reason is if you are using the carrier gas which is having low grade, So that means it is having higher impurities, then there is a chance of getting column damaged. And the second reason here is there is no sufficient equilibration process. Actually, we need to provide the carrier gas through the column for about 12 to 24 hours. So if you're not maintaining minimum of 12 hours, so before starting the experiment, so the carrier gas has to be passed to the column. The column has to be saturated with the carrier gas for about 12 hours minimum. So if you fail that, then you will be getting a column contaminated. So how do we know that column is contaminated? Here we can see the peak tailing in the final chromatogram, and sometimes we can also get bonus peaks. Additional peaks also will be present in the column chromatogram. So these are the problems that we can see here in the column. But how do we control this problem? So we have to check the high grade. We have to check the grade of the carrier gas, whether it is high grade or low grade, before starting the experiment. And we have to stick on to SOPs, that is standard operating procedure. We have to do equilibration process for minimum of 12 hours, then we can clear this problem. And the next instrumental component here is column oven. So this is very much important. Why? Because here we need to maintain a thermostatically controlled temperatures. So that's why this is called thermostatically controlled oven. So we are not using the same temperatures like in HPLC. In HPLC, we are using the same temperatures. We are not changing any temperatures. But here in gas chromatography, we are using the temperatures, so which are thermostatically controlled according to the procedure that we are using temperature programming here. We have two types of programmings: isothermal programming, linear programming. In isothermal programming, the temperature will be same for the entire experiment. For example, we are using around 70 degrees centigrade. For the entire experiment, we are using the same temperatures. That is called isothermal programming. And the second type of programming is called linear programming. Here the temperature will be increasing with the time. Initially, we used 60 degrees centigrade. After 10 minutes, the temperature will become 80 degrees. After 10 minutes, it become 100 degrees. In that way, it is going up to 300 degrees centigrade. So what is the use of linear programming? So linear programming will be useful for separation of a complex mixture components. So for example, if the sample components are many sample components are present in the sample solution, around 10 to 15 sample components get easily separated by linear programming. Why? Because we are providing different temperatures, and sample components are having different boiling points. So we can provide all the boiling points. We can easily separate all the components by using this linear programming. But whereas in case of isothermal programming, we can separate few components. A simple mixtures can be separated by isothermal programming. Why? Because we are not changing the temperature. We are using the fixed temperature. At fixed temperature, very few components can easily get separated. And the next component here is detectors. So these are the very much important components which detect the sample components. So we have two types of detectors: concentration dependent gradient detectors and mass flow detectors. Concentration concentration dependent detectors, which are mainly depending upon the concentration, solute concentration. If you're changing the solute concentration, the detector response will be changed. So these are non-destructive detectors. Here the sample will not be destructive. Why? Because sample is not directly exposing to the flame. But these detectors will be giving the low response. So these are the examples of concentration dependent detectors, TCD, ECD, AID, thermal conductivity detectors, electron capture detectors, and argon ionization detectors, etc. And the second one is called mass flow detectors. Here, these detectors are working based on the flow rate of the carrier gas. This is a destructive technique. Why? Because here we can use flame, the carrier gas, and sample will be directly exposed to the flame. And here we can get higher response. So these are the examples: FID, flame ionization detector, FPD, etc. So while we are performing the experiment, so we can get one problem. Sometimes we can see the detector contamination. It is mainly due to the carrier gas impurities. Sometimes the detector is not properly installed. So how do we know that detector is contaminated? So how do we know that this detector is improper installation? How do we know that? So we can sometimes we cannot get any peaks even we are injecting the sample solution. So that indicates the detector is not responding. Sometimes we can get low response due to presence of higher impurities. So due to passing of low grade carrier gases. So these are the problems that we can get usually. So we can rectify it. So we have to do proper installation and we have to check the grade of the carrier gas. Then we can rectify these problems. And the next component here is a recorder. So this is the final component, recorder and integrator. Recorder will be useful for recording the signal which is sent by detector. Here we can record the peaks, so which is depending upon the concentration, the type of the sample that we are separating in the column. The next one is integrator. Integrator will be useful for integration purpose. We can integrate the peaks. We can calculate the retention time, peak height, width, area under curve, etc. Some many properties that we can integrate easily by using integrator. So these are the important instrumental parameters, instrumental components that we have in gas chromatography. And the next one is gas applications, gas chromatographic applications. Usually gas chromatography will be useful for qualitative purpose as well as quantitative purpose. We can identify the sample as well as we can quantify the sample. It is mostly used for the environmental pollutants. So we can easily identify and quantify the environmental pollutants like air pollutants, water, soil, sediments, etc. And gas chromatography is also useful for analysis of different type of products, volatile organic pollutants, pesticides, etc. And it is also useful for analysis of drug products like antibiotics, antivirals, anesthetics, etc. Food products, dairy products. So it will be very much useful in the pharmaceutical industry as well as in some other industries like food industry and dairy products. So it will be very useful equipment that we can see. And it is comparatively a low cost equipment than comparing with the HPLC. HPLC is having higher expenses. And this GC is very much useful in the pharmaceutical industry. And if you have the knowledge and handling skills, then definitely you will get job as gas chromatographic analyst. I hope this is very useful information for you. You got a very clear idea about this gas chromatography. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any doubts that you can ask me in the comment section below. So I'll be very happy to explain all the questions that you have mentioned. So don't forget to subscribe my channel. So please give your feedback. So I've started this channel recently. I need your feedback so that I can improve myself and present more valuable content to you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.